and I'll be your host for today's session. Before we get started, just some quick announcements and housekeeping. First of all, thank you to all of you who came out to our Soch cafes in Karachi and Islamabad over the past 2 weeks. Our topic was storytelling for product managers, and it was extremely valuable and inspirational for all of those in attendance to learn from your product stories and challenges. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Also, if you haven't already, start following Product Soch on LinkedIn so you can catch the next Soch Cafe happening in your city, as well as be updated on our other event streams. For this session, whether you're joining us from LinkedIn or YouTube, please post your questions into the chat and we'll bring them up during or towards the end of the session. Our guest today is Adrienne Tan. So it's actually past midnight for Adrienne, 1 a.m. in Sydney to be exact. And Adrienne, we're so thankful and humbled that you've joined us at such a late hour for you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Adrienne has 20 years of experience in the tech industry and is currently CEO and co-founder of Brainmates, a product management consultancy where she has helped companies across industries and around the world achieve product excellence. Brainmates is the leader in product management professional services in Australia and New Zealand and delivers practical product-led change to scale-ups, SMEs, and enterprise organizations. She has trained and coached thousands of product managers and executives, and her thought leadership has been featured in industry publications and conferences worldwide. Adrienne is a sought-after speaker and a recognized expert in the field of product management. She's also a board member for the Association of Product Professionals and an active member, a mentor, and supporter of women in technology, and has been named a finalist in the Women in Technology Awards. Today, she'll be talking about unlocking the power of product-led teams. Adrienne, thank you so much for making the time to join us. Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I was super excited to be able to speak to folks in Pakistan. It is 1 a.m, so I may not be at my at my best, but today I want to talk to you about unlocking the power of product-led teams. Firstly, I do have to say it's a somewhat sexy title. Product-led seems to be all the rage at the moment, but it's important to when we're thinking about unlocking the power, there's no secret sauce. A lot of it's hard work, common sense, and bringing balance to the discussion and thinking. So firstly, let's demystify the term product-led. Product-led is absolutely not about a team, such as the product management team or teams in the organization leading the organization. It is actually a very collective decision-making process that enables the whole company to be able to think like a product manager, to identify customer problems before delving straight into solutions. It's really about a mindset and a behavior, and product-led could be likened to product-led culture throughout the business. But more importantly, it's not about product teams making decisions, not all the decisions in any case. As I said, product-led means that all parts of the business transform how they think and how they perform to enable the business to put some really good, solid product management practices at the core of how they drive value. Now, I talk about balance quite a lot, and sometimes people akin good product management to only focusing on identifying, customer problems and delivering customer value. But in any good organization with good product practices, this concept of balance is super important. As product people, we don't just look at the customer and the customer problems and their needs and solve for that. We also have to consider strategically where our organization wants to head. What are our ambitions as an organization? Because there are some customer problems that we may deliberately choose not to solve. It may not be part of our strategic plan in the next 12, 24 months. It may never be part of our strategic plan even though there may be a valuable customer problem to solve. And that's the importance about being product led. It's not just focusing on customer, nor is it focusing on the business. It's about bringing balance to both, making sure that we identify customer problems that are valuable to solve, that are aligned to our strategy and our company ambitions. Because if you solve one without the other, you're going to essentially end up in a really bad place. If you just think about the customer and solve their problems, you may not be operating well. You may not deliver the results that you're after as a business. But then if you focus solely on the business and their problems, and its problems, I should say, without considering the customer, well then, you're not also going to drive the revenue that you are seeking. Because if you don't solve something valuable, you'll never be successful as a business. So it's about bringing balance to both of those. And I think that's a really key concept in good product management. It's about thinking about customers and balancing with the organizational needs. And feel free to chime in. I want to make sure this isn't a
No,
late.
Adrienne, I think it sounds so simple, right? Yet I think so many product organizations get this balance wrong, right? It's, hey, we either want to hit the bottom line, and when they try to hit the bottom line, it's either at the expense of the customer, or we want to delight the customer so much that we offer everything and anything that they want. However, you're not hitting the bottom line, right? So I think you hit the nail on the head that it's a very delicate balance, and so yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, and it's something to always consider. And also, like, why should we care? As you said, it's about that bottom line. Well, we don't care about that balance. Well, ultimately, our products fail. And this is such an old stat from the Journal of Product Innovation Management in 2013. If 40% of all new products fail then, what would it be like now when it's so much easier to put new products and services in market? The barrier to entry into many markets is quite low. Anyone can spin up a web page and put up a bunch of services. Anyone can use technology these days to put new products up. So the rate of product failure, I would hypothesize, would be higher than this number. And that's such a waste. That's a waste of human energy, emotions, because we not only put something in market hoping to get a financial return, but we also put ourselves in market. And when it doesn't succeed, as a product manager, it's disappointing and it's sad. And so bringing this balance of identifying customer problems and solving and making sure we deliver to the organization's ambitions is super important. It's not just about money, it's also about human emotions, which we often forget.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also, there's a lot of literature out there in the market, but it says that if you adopt this product-led approach, well, then you'll see, there are benefits to that. There's benefits to being product-led with your enterprise value, your product growth rate, and your revenue multiplies. And look, product-led is really, if we think about it, common sense, as I said. Why wouldn't you want to think about the customer as well as your business? And by putting these very basic thinking foundations in the business, well, then the opportunities for growth is much greater. I'm preaching maybe to the converted. So what's the power of being product-led? Let's be more specific. It's not just absolutely, it's about growing, multiplying your revenue, growing your organization's value. But being product-led helps you do three things. One, if you think about it, if you think about putting in the practices and rituals in place for being product led, well, ultimately, the test comes when you're demonstrating that you're doing more with less. You're more efficient, right? There's less waste in the product process itself. So efficiency is something that you can start to measure, count. And then secondly, once you put a good operating kind of product model in place, people understand what they need to do, when they need to do it, who they need to communicate, collaborate with, well, then ultimately you're going to deliver the planned outcome. So, in your backlog, you might say that you're going to enable customers to, I don't know, pay their bill. Nobody wants to pay the bill. Maybe that was a really bad example, but they want to continue their service. How about we say that they want to continue their service, and you've got a feature to enable them to do that. You've got some functionality, and efficacy is around. Yes, we had planned to do that and deliver that outcome, and we've done it. So you've got efficiency. We can do it well with less waste, and we're actually doing the things that we said we'd do. We're going to deliver some of these, things to our customers, enabling them to do a job, to complete a task. Tick, tick, we've got that.
Yeah.
Thirdly, the effectiveness of what you put out in market can also be measured. And that's measured through the value that you've created and delivered. Now, you might have said, well, I want to continue as a customer, I want to continue, using my service, and tick, you've got that out. And yes, they are continuing to use the service, and yes, they are continuing to pay you, and yes, that they are achieving the outcome that you had anticipated and planned for. So they're getting value from it, they're deriving value from it, and they're more likely to remain and retain the service that you provide. They remain with your business. So there's three ways to look at, being product led. There's three ways to count it: efficiency, efficacy, and effectiveness. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Cool. Awesome. I'm slowly getting into it. I'm like out of my, I'm out of my 1 o'clock slump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So look, synthesizing all of this, really being product led, thinking in having that product led mindset really enables you to make products with minimal waste. Yeah, because we've got good processes and rituals in place, and make products that work as expected. Yes, I can the service remains. I can continue using the service as a customer, and ultimately that creates value for the customer and derives some benefit for the business. So it's a really powerful thing. It seems kind of like, it seems, like I say, a very sexy term, but it's a very, like, at its core, it's very simple, and very effective if done well. So what do you need really to become product led? Or what do you need to maintain or unleash the power of product led teams? Again, I like to use the word balance, because sometimes we go overboard on one path, and then it causes an unbalance, and then we then course correct, and then we go down the other path, and it's, again, balance is super important. So it's 6 key areas that we should be considering. Before we start to think about who to hire, when to hire, we really need to understand where we're going, because where we're going will tell us the types of skills we need, the types of, potentially, the practices and processes we need to put in place. So that vision, that strategy, and that roadmap, super important. Structure and people comes next. Then you want to make sure that your people operate efficiently, effectively, Then, of course, that's that constant discover and deliver, the measure and responding, putting the things out in market, measuring it, and then aligning your organization. So let's go into each of those in a little bit more depth.
Yeah. Adrienne, I'm curious. I know you'll go into depth. I'm curious, where do you work with a lot of organizations and a lot of product managers. If you could go back to the previous slide, I'm wondering where do you see like the most amount of miss here?
Oh my goodness. I look, what's happened, I guess, in the industry, in the tech industry, or as organizations are transforming, they go straight into fixing their delivery process. That's why you see a lot of agile transformations that occur.
Yeah.
And they're not successful, or they take a long time to be successful, or to make change as they had anticipated, because they don't really think about the upstream. And so the strategy and the roadmap is where there's always a lot of misunderstanding. There may be a lack of strategy, or there may be too many strategies.
Mhm.
There may be incorrect. What people think of strategy may be incorrect, like a goal and an objective, and okay, they're not strategies.
Mhm.
Strategy is a set of choices, sequence set of choices that enables you to essentially deliver the vision of your product, where you see your product fitting in the world and how it's going to solve the world's problems. And so people often really don't understand the concept of strategy. And I think that before we do, work downstream in the delivery part, we need to pay more attention upstream
Yeah.
and try and consider, where are the guardrails? Because I think strategy is a lot about, giving the teams the guardrails to be able to make prioritized decisions.
Yeah, I think that's so spot on, right? In my conversations with a lot of product managers, a lot of when they first join an organization, really they don't even go through this, right? The vision is not communicated to them, the strategy is not communicated to them. Maybe there's a roadmap deck somewhere, but more often they're just kind of thrown into the backlog to begin with, right? And it's
Yes,
exactly
that's so low level. Yeah.
yeah, start delivering, and then you get into that mindset as well that I need to start delivering right away because of course it's a new job, and so you get into that delivery mindset, and once you get into it, it's so hard to then take steps back and then start looking at this stuff, right? So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like playing with grains of sand and trying to figure out which grain of sand is worth more than the other grain of sand that looks exactly the same as the current grain of sand you're assessing. And so you're in this middle of, like, the sand pit, and you can't tell one thing from another, right? Unless you zoom out. So I love to use this kind of language around zoom in and zoom out. And so if you zoom out, you might be able to see the sand pit in the playground. And then you might be able to understand that, oh, look, I am building for this. Maybe I'm building the next playground. But because we're playing with the sand, we have no idea that we're building a playground. We just think we're in the sand pit and we're moving grains of sand around. So it's really important to have a clearly articulated and very regularly communicated vision. And when I mean vision, I don't mean a simple statement. It's not just a phrase. When I talk about a product vision, I talk about a story, your product story, and how your product fits in the world, and how it's going to change the world and solve your customer's problem. So I'm looking for something richer there, because that provides people with a narrative and a picture in their head so they can make better decisions. Right. So if you're in the sand pit moving grains of sand around, you'll be able to go, oh, look, I am now, I'm going to have the most amazing playground. It's, kids can play on, like, if it's really hot, it won't burn the child. So we have materials that, are appropriate for, the weather, all of these things, like a true story. And then it's like, so what do we do first if we're going to build this playground that's so revolutionary for kids in hot weather? Well, let's build. We think that kids will be more attracted to the playground if we've got these climbing kind of mechanisms. So we're going to put the climbing mechanisms in first before we put the swings and the sand pits. So that's your strategy. So how do you bring that to life?
Yeah.
Right. And then the roadmap is breaking that down to enable people to understand the how, in increments, what are the pieces of outcomes you're trying to deliver. Well, I'm going to deliver the ability for 10 kids to climb some structure first before 100 kids. So it's just the next level of detail.
Absolutely. That's a great analogy. Yeah, I just kind of visualized it a bit. I've got young kids as well, and when you take them to kind of a play area, right, that playground, there's different things that they can play with. So if you have like a play structure, you could have a slide, and then maybe perhaps on your roadmap, you'd say, well, I'm going to add a bigger slide next time, right? And so that kind of
Yeah, I'm going
becomes
to cater for more kids or bigger kids. So it's because I'm expanding. Yeah, so there's so many different, but it's a picture. So the strategy is really how do I do that? What do I do first? What's the most valuable thing? How do I attract the children to the playground first? Which thing, which mechanism? I don't even remember which piece of equipment will attract the kids first. So then you've got this, right? I know where I'm going to be and how I'm going to change the world, and my target market are kids that are 3 to 6 initially. Well, who's going to help me bring this to life, right? How will I structure my team so they could all work together to bring our playground to life? Well, I'm going to need some architects, some construction workers, some teachers, maybe some consultants, whatever it is, to bring that people, and who will report to who, so that we can make sure that we efficiently bring this to life, our vision to life. Hopefully that's kind of giving you a picture about, the importance of, well, all the ingredients you need to be able to, what we call, be product led. Now, that's great and I'm going to keep using my playground analogy. When people come to start working on the playground, like, how will they know to do their jobs? What should they do first when they come to the site, the playground site? Do they open the door? Do they greet people? Do they have coffee? It maybe seems simple, but this overall practice and process provides people, like, I love the word guardrails, to go, okay, I feel secure and safe. I know what to do. I've been given enough instructions so that I can apply my skills confidently to make this playground. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the word process, but everything we do is a process. We wake up and, we brush our teeth, and your process might be a bit different to my process, but it's repeatable. There's no surprise, I don't have to think about it. So the cognitive load is removed, because as an organization, I've told people, here's how I expect you. Here are the sequences I need you to work in. And, number 4, being product led. What's that? That is about, now that you're there, you've got your gut guardrails, you understand where you're heading, you see that, grand, fabulous playground, and you're making things, you're iterating, and you're going, oh, I'm just going to go down the road. I'm just going to see how kids actually use the slide. Do they go head first, or do they go bum first? What is it that they prefer to do? I'm going to make a slide that enables them to go bum first, and there might be, and a bit of excitement. So you're working and you're discovering and iteratively delivering value to your community, your customers. And so, for example, you don't have to open up the whole playground all at once. You could say, hey, I've uncovered the most important thing that kids really want to play with, and I'm going to work on that, and then I'm going to open it out to the kids there, and then while I work on the other kind of pieces of equipment in the playground. Why? Because I want to give the kids opportunity to experience it and give them value. Why do I want to hold back the value and hide, the whole playground until it's ready when I can give elements of that to the kids? And they give me feedback, and then I can decide, oh, do I want to improve the slide or do I want to open up the sand pit?
Yeah, I, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this point, right? Again, one of those things that we keep hearing again and again, you know, iterate, discover, iterate, discover. However, in practice, what sometimes ends up happening is people want to give that wow factor. They think that they have to deliver the entire playground in order to deliver value. Um, I mean, are we being idealistic when we say, iterate, discover, or is it just something in our nature that we just want to, knock the socks off somebody? So we want to make sure we've got everything in, all the bells and whistles, right? Before we put our product out there. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
My thought around that is again, it goes back to strategy. Like, you need to understand your market. Neither decision is right or wrong.
Hmm.
It's what it's what you decide to do to obtain value. What is valuable? If, for example, you find out that the kids really need more than the slide to come to the playground, then you can't just release the slide because
Right.
you may not get anybody, because the park down the road has more, whistles and pieces of equipment, and it's more fun and it won't attract anybody. So that you need to understand what are the minimum things that you need to put in the park to attract your target market.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but strategically, you might say, you know what? I don't need to attract my target market just yet. I'm just quite happy to put the slide out and just decide, well, one or two people might come and play, and that's fine for me while I work in the background. I'm quite happy to release some value so that some people can have a taste of it. I'll probably learn from it.
Hmm.
Um, or I'm like, well, no, there's big parks that are opening out all around me. And so if I don't open up the big park, well, then nobody will, no one will come to me at all. So you've got to figure out, you've got to understand your market, you've got to understand, and I mean market, not just your customers or your competitors, but the ecosystem. There might be no suppliers around. They're all gone to a different park to help that park owner make their equipment. So there are all those things to consider. But once you're in the flow of making and delivering, and you've got a cadence around that, you want to make sure that you're measuring it. This is really important because we often forget that when the time that we actually derive value from our product is not when it's in development, but when it hits the market. That's the only time when you're going to extract value from your product, right? But unfortunately, we forget, we drop the product in market, and then we go back to making more new things, and we leave our investment in the market to support itself, and potentially it may languish. So our job is to go, okay, how's it doing? 10 people use the slide. Did they like it? Did they not? Maybe I need to make the slide wider. There's so many things that we need to measure. And once we measure it and we see what I understand the impacts of that, well, then we're going to respond. We're going to have to respond appropriately. You don't just make your park and you don't walk away and go and start it, create a brand new park. You got to keep and maintain your park. You want to improve it. The gardens might be dying, so you want to put some new flowers in. I've never used a playground analogy before, but it seems to be working quite
Working
well.
so well, right? Like I would have never thought of that. Like of course you don't just go build another park, right? You monitor your sales, you monitor how many people are coming in, you monitor if
Exactly.
they're enjoying themselves, right? And it's funny, a lot of times we don't think of it that way. You end up being a feature factory where it's like, okay, on to the next thing. We don't need to monitor whatever we pushed out, right? But that's super important.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's look, like I say, a lot of these things are common sense. It's not entirely sexy. And, organizations put their best people in development, that whole design and development delivery process. And then we don't invest in life cycle management. When actually, hey, you want your best investors, your best people there extracting the value out of that, right? So um, important to measure and respond. Another key ingredient as part of being product led and unleashing the power of the unleashing the power slash value of the teams. Um, that's great. That look, product is a team sport. It is not done. Um, Product managers can't put out products by themselves. They need to work across the whole organization to make sure that they're putting the right products in market, that it is being supported, that it is returning, some value to the business. And so this whole concept around being product led is 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 good. It's common sense, it's good. And as part of being a product led organization means that we have to constantly align our business. We can't go, well, no, you can't have a bigger slide because that other park had a bigger slide. You can't just compete on big slides, right? We've got to go back to that concept of balance again. Who's our customer? What problem are we trying to solve? If we solve it, do they get some sort of benefit? And do we as an organization get benefits out of it as well? So that constant narrative needs to be, I guess, always on tap, always spreading across the whole organization, because we have this tendency as humans to go straight into, I want a bigger slide. Now, if we use, yeah, exactly. It's waste. Nobody wants the bigger slide. They might want a swing, right? And so our job for being, effective product-led businesses is to make sure that we're constantly aligning the whole organization on the reasons why and the goodness of having this product-led approach, because it's constant means that we can always be, up to date and can remain competitive. Now, people go, how the hell do we do all of this? Now, there are lots of lists, and sometimes people feel unempowered to be able to make change in their business. And I always talk about the individual, because it's got to start somewhere. Like, so how do I start? Do I go speak to my CEO? Yes. Do I stop because the CEO ignored me? No. If you really believe in the benefits of being product led, if you want to utilize the good product people that you have or that you work with, that is in your team, I talk a lot about the concept of self-authorization. Only you have to firstly authorize yourself to go, hey, I know I may be outside of the bounds of my formal, my formal role. But if I don't start making some changes to my habits, and if I don't self-authorize to put in some of these practices or thinking or behaviors, well, then no one will. So that self-authorization is really important, and it starts with you. So if somebody comes to you, for example, and you can start practicing this tomorrow or today, really, tomorrow for me, today, you would say, okay, if your manager comes to you and says, look, I think it's a bigger slide, your response should be, thank you so much. Where did that suggestion come from? Who do you think might want a bigger slide? And if we had a bigger slide for that segment or that persona, what do you reckon that'll enable that persona to do? What problem might it solve?
Mm.
All right. So you can start to self-authorize the change to become product-led by simply changing as simple as asking the right questions when people start to approach you. By asking people, you know, you, where's our strategy? And if they say we don't have one, well, how do we come together? Don't simply say, well, I can't do my job, you don't have a strategy, all is lost. I would then say, well, guys, let's come together. Like, obviously there might be a gap here. Come together as a team and let's figure out what we want to sequence, how we want to sequence what we want to do. What do we want to do? How will we sequence it? And I know that I'm over time, and so I want you to. I want to thank you. Thank you. May not be at my best performance, but if you guys want to connect with me, please find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. I'm super excited to be able to speak to the folks in Pakistan.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Adrienne. Yeah, it's funny. Like we had somebody over from the UK. He's a product manager at or he consults with Christie, the auction house, at the moment.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and we got started talking. We were talking about essentially creating a course, and throughout our conversation, we realized, like, you know what, us as product managers, like, you can attend a course and there's something idealistic. You learn something that's basically idealistic, or you'll go read Marty's book or one these hundreds of product management books, which of course have great content, and great ways to do product management. However, you alone as a product manager, you can't take those things and expect it to implement in your organization. And so what I learned from your presentation today, which has validated that conversation, is that it's a team sport, right? Product management is a team sport. It's an organizational sport. Everybody has to buy into that. It's not just that you're going to throw a product manager in there, and they'll go through a course or read a book, and all of a sudden it's going to transform your organization. I think from the top to the bottom, you need to be product led. So that was really really insightful for me. And of course,
Awesome.
we've seen the success of product led companies, product led teams actually at companies like Netflix, Spotify, and my favorite, Tesla. And so again, your talk today further validated the need to understand and unlock the power of product-led teams. Adrienne, this was super valuable, and on behalf of our product community and the Product Soch team, thank you so much, and thank you, of course,
Pleasure.
for joining us so late. We really appreciate it, and thank you to all of you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you.